there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Actually, it's going to be a Market Tuesday because I apologize getting this out a day late. I was having internet connections yesterday. It kept cutting out. Hopefully we get a stabilized connection today. I apologize for that. But anywho, we're going to take a look at two different things in today for the topics for the Market Monday. The first, of course, is conspiracy. I think it's something that needs to be discussed, as it's going to show us now that Wizards is not afraid to reprint cards that have very, very low supply, which I think is a good thing. And it's also, since I didn't invest in cards, I think it was a terrible investment when we got burned in the past on holding on to cards that I think we should have got rid of that had more reprints quicker than like Dak Faden was one of them. Like, we stockpiled a few Dak Fadens, especially. I think we had a foil one that the second version of Eternal Masters just lost a ton of value on. And I think that's a sign going forward that these are not very safe investment cards in these old legacy staples, or these one print foils, especially in legacy. Again, the Dak Faden. And then moving forward, I think that having a mindset based upon just the lower end of Magic the Gathering investment. I'm talking about what I like to invest in rares around the $2 mark, or in mythics around the even lower than $10, and then selling them off when they've doubled in value is the better way to go in Magic the Gathering, rather than waiting for like these huge profit margins that we saw back in the day, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Well, I don't think they're very likely to ever happen again, and we'll discuss why, at least in my opinion, why that's the case. So first of all, we'll talk about conspiracy. Conspiracy has insane value right now at $307. This is on a 222 card set. This is extremely high with just the 14 mythics and 51 rares. This is outperforming other sets in the recent past, like the Shadows of Innistrad, Eldritch Moon. And those are sets that see a ton of play because they are standard legal. This is not a standard legal format. In fact, most of the cards in here are not legal in Modern. They have to have been printed in a Modern set for them to be legal in Modern. So some of these will be legal in Legacy. But we saw with Conspiracy 1, it was a set that was printed a ton. You can still find boxes of Conspiracy 1 at under MSRP, or actually even under like market price, where you can actually buy them from the vendors. I continue to get Conspiracy boxes for around $75 up until I would say a month ago, when they went up to about 80. You could still even order them from Wizards at their $78 price tag. So Conspiracy, and the price of Conspiracy was quite low, like if you pieced out most of the value in Conspiracy 1. And it wasn't because I think Conspiracy 1 was a dud of a set. It had some legacy staples, some casual favorites, a lot of fresh new cards like the Dak Faden, for example. So it wasn't a dud of a set like Dragon's Maze, for example. So I think we're going to see the trend for Conspiracy take the crown to be very similar. Some of those prices out of Conspiracy 1 came out like really heavy, and they fell very fast because it was a very fun draft set. It got drafted a lot. The supply of this was huge. And so I think that as soon as you get these cards, sell them. So let me just talk about, let's just go down the list of the ones that are worth a lot. So we have Berserk. Berserk was a very expensive card. We'll look at its trajectory here of the Berserk from the Unlimited. Unlimited's the best way to. So here we have Berserk take off during the Conspiracy 1, actually, when this was the second wave of price increases. This is really the legacy wave. This is when Tundras and Plateaus and all those cards started to go up. We saw Modern bubble a little bit earlier here. I would say Modern started bubbling around here with a lot of the Modern staples. Well, more like right around Return to Ravnica Gate Crash. And then Legacy was a little bit later. We saw a ton of the player base increase in size from New Phyrexia to Innistrad, and then Innistrad to the Return to Ravnica blocks. It went, a lot of people say it went from like 2 million to 5 million, then 5 million to 10 million, within that time period of active players. So we saw the cards that were more casual or more even commander and legacy especially lagged behind the modern. And I predicted that. I said, okay, this is the natural transition of a Magic player. They get into Magic, the first thing they play is casually. So they'll buy a dual deck and play with their friends, or they'll buy a few packs of Standard and play with their friends. And then they'll get kind of coaxed into the Friday Night Magic scene and then realize that their deck sucks. And then we have the arms race happen, where between friends, they'll start getting more and more expensive decks and more powerful decks to beat their friends. And then they'll start competing in FNMs. And then that's usually when a Magic player gets really into Magic. This has been my experience owning a local game store and playing in multiple different local game stores throughout, a few decades of Magic. And this has been my vast experience with the kind of the evolution of a Magic player. Then rotation happens and they freak out. They panic. Because a deck that they spent $200, $300 on is now they can't even play it anywhere. No one wants to even play. And they don't want to go through the same cycle with the next Standard. So they start to look at these commander formats and Legacy and Modern. Not really Legacy though, because Legacy is astronomically expensive. And then so the next transition was Modern. So right here we saw a huge increase in Modern during the Return to Ravnica blocks. And a lot of people getting into Modern at that point. And the Modern prices just skyrocketed. We saw Scalding Tarns, for example, go from a $15 card all the way up to a $100 card. And various other staples like Tarmogoyf and Dark Confidant even get multiple printings, yet still double or triple in value. So the next transition that I predicted was that people, like the serious hardcore new players that aren't new anymore, they've been in the game for 2-3 years, they are veterans, will start to dabble in Legacy. And that is where, right here about Khans of Tarkir, so they've survived 2 rotations now. They have their Modern deck, they have their Commander deck, they have their very standard decks that have rotated. They start getting into Legacy. And that's when we started to see Legacy prices go up in value. So I have a hard time thinking this trend is going to happen again, because I don't see Magic the Gathering doing that double or triple in active players ever again. I think that Magic has hit its plateau, and it's going to take it until their movie releases or just some big change happens to see like that huge flux. Now, that's the bad news as far as we're never going to see that golden age of just crazy price gains. The good news is, though, is Magic is still very healthy. And Shadows of Innistrad had extremely good sales. Eldritch Moon has I think, I might be wrong about this, incorrect about this, but I was reading that Eldritch Moon has the best sales out of a summer set ever, which they've had problems with summer sets in the past. Those are usually the core sets that really flop. And owning a local game store, I can tell you that I'm glad summer is over in that aspect, because our store is going to start filling up with people. In an area like mine, in a very recreation-heavy area where people get out and actually are very active in the summer, our store is dead in the summer. So sets like core sets in the past, or even Conspiracy 1, were kind of slow in selling just because no one was playing Magic at that point. Magic always goes in these seasonal swings, and so Eldritch Moon selling the way it did was a good sign for Magic the Gathering. But the population growth is continually to be stabilized, like it's increasing, but not noticeably increasing to where prices are going to be affected. In fact, most modern staples have been going down. I think what we're happening right now is we're starting to see a little bit of an exodus of these players that have now been playing for 3 to 4 years, kind of just getting bored. A lot of people are not like you and I, or actually you might be in that category. A lot of people are not like me, are these like players that play consistently for decades. In fact, I've had multiple like 3-4 year hiatuses from Magic the Gathering, and I think we're starting to see one right now. I've bought a ton of collections for these players that played pretty regularly in the modern and standard Friday Night Magics. We saw them in the store quite a bit. And most of them are like, I'm going to keep a deck or two, but I don't want they've just been cluttering up my closet. I don't want the rest of these cards, and they've sold them. And I think that's also what's affecting a bit of the price drop in a lot of these modern staples. And lastly, with modern, I talked about it before, is the camera time affects prices. So the whole thing of Wizards not doing a pro tour with modern is why we're seeing a lot of the modern prices go down in value. Cards like the even Tarmogoyf and the Fetchlands and just a ton of staples in modern that had their peaks that have gone way down since their peaks. So we're talking 10, 20, 30% in those. And we'll look at those in a second. So anyway, that's just some food for thought. Let's go back to talking about conspiracy though. So how to get even off on this tangent. So Berserk is a $90 card. The reason why it's a $90 card is it was only printed in Unlimited. That's it. Unlimited. People are insane if they think that this card is going to hold its value, even as a mythic. Price memory does what price memory is people just remember a card to be expensive, and for that reason alone, it continues to stay more expensive than it should be. We've seen that happen in the past with plenty of cards that have no rhyme or reason because they see absolutely no play. Hold up a huge price tag. I think Dark Confidant was very stubborn at the $50, $60, $70 mark because it was a huge heavily played card in the number one deck for a long time, and then even Jund got rid of it, but the price tag of Dark Confidant stayed very, very high. Now, Jund decks do still use Dark Confidant. It's a great card in Modern, but it is nowhere near the power level of a card like Tarmogoyf or some of these other chase rares, and he finally, after its third printing, that Dark Confidant did fall. So Berserk especially, Berserk is actually no show and tell. Show and tell has a lot more casual appeal than Berserk does. And the show and tell is also suffering from a very, very low amount of cards out there in the marketplace. So these two, I think if out of the two, Berserk or show and tell has a better chance of stabilizing. And again, show and tell was going up in value before the legacy rise. So it was printed here in Urza's Saga, and again, it's just a card that's had a nice trajectory since MTG Goldfish has been keeping track of prices. It went all the way up to 80, and then it went back down. I think it got did it get a foil judge, a promo judge here? It might have, but it had this nice trajectory here just because it had kind of the double dip demand. One from casual and one from from commander and one from legacy. So it didn't have the Berserk trajectory where the legacy players started getting into it. It has had this high increase since the influx of Magic players just from all the commander players. So anyway, I think that show and tell has a much better chance of stabilizing in the long term, of around the $20 mark, but $30 I think is just out of reach for it. $30 is hard for a mythic mythic that is actually in standard, seeing a ton of play in standard to hold that price tag. I mean, look at even Gideon and Kalatas. They're both below $30 and they just see a ton of play. But Conspiracy will not be opened as much as either of those sets. But it's still, I have a hard time. Dak Faden, we could kind of compare to Dak Faden, the first printing in the Conspiracy. But again, Conspiracy didn't really have any other value in it besides Dak Faden and Exploration. And so all the rest of the cards that started off being more expensive fell way down, and Dak Faden just kind of held the value. It's very similar to Voice of Resurgence out of the Dragon's Maze. So I expect Berserk to half, or even, I think that settling down to the $10-$12 mark is probably where Berserk is going to hit. The good news is it is a 4 of in a very popular and actually very easy deck. Very, very easy deck to get into now in Legacy, because if you have this in Modern, which I know a lot of people play, in fact, shame on you. I hope you all have horrible, horrible deaths for playing that deck in Modern, because you're part of the problem with Modern being a terrible format. I'll talk about that later. I haven't announced this yet on my channel, but I've 100% quit Modern for now. I think it's a very degenerate format. I hate it. I refuse to play Modern. It comes off an experience twofold. Zach can attest to this. One was I was trying to test out a new deck on MTGO and played Ad Nauseam, Suicide Zoo, Infect, and Kiln Fiend. And that was my trying to test this deck. And a lot of it was with me having a Path to Exile in my hand and still dying on turn number 2. Turn number 2. So many turns in a row to these Suicide. I keep all these like Suicide and Infect players say that it's so rare, but it seems to happen to me all the time. Dying on turn number 2 to first turn Glistener Elves or first turn Monastery Mentors or Swiss Spears. Anyway, I'll quit talking about that. But Berserk is just one of those cards that is very, very easy to transition from a modern Infect deck into a Legacy, because the most of the cards, even if you have to use fetch, the shock lands instead of the dual lands, Infect it was Berserk that was holding a lot of people back, having to get a playset of $90, so that's what, $360 to upgrade your modern deck into Legacy was not very appealing. But now with Berserk in the mix, it's a lot easier for those Infect players to join Legacy. All right, so, but anyway, back to what we were talking about with why I think it's a bad investment anyway to pick these up, is it just shows the willingness now of Wizards to reprint these high-end cards. This was a $90 card. Berserk is a card I'd expect to see play or see a reprint in a small set like Eternal Masters. Showing that they will print a $90 card in a Conspiracy set, I like the move, but as a high-end investor, I think this should scare the pants off of you. I am not a high-end investor. Again, my targets are the $2, $3 rares and the $5 mythics that then go up to $20, or the $2 or the 5 cent Stony Silence that went up to $11, or in my case the 5 cent Stony Silence on MTGO that went up to $2 to $3. And I just made a killing off that. It fed me for an entire year on MTGO, that spec. So I think that everyone should transition more into that mindset. If this is more your cup of tea, I run into a lot of these high-end speculators and high-end investors, especially at GPs, and they'll show me their foil Snapcaster Mages and their foil Lilianas. I'm like, man, that is just insane. There's no way by the time you get the announcement that it gets reprinted, you've already lost half your value. And that's just something that I do not like to do. I'm a penny stocks person. I'm a person that has been selling Moon Mists and Thought Scours and all these, scrapping by with all these commons I got for free. And it's just, if this is going to be the new trend, oh man, I would not touch singles, especially high-end singles, if they're so willing to throw a Berserk in a heavy printed set. All right, so those are kind of the reprints. Those are the two reprints that are really flashy. So now let's talk about Recruiter of the Guard. Recruiter of the Guard is just insane to be at $25. Yes, Death and Taxes probably wants it in Legacy. It can't hit Modern. It's very good in Commander, though. Yeah, I'll probably want to. Let's just pull this guy up. And Recruiter's really cool because they are comparing it to the red one that was printed in Portal 3 Kingdoms, and that's the reason why it's so expensive. People need to understand that some of these cards in Legacy are so expensive because there are literally none out there. It's so hard to find an unlimited Berserk. What is it? There's as many Berserks as there are Black Lotuses. Was that an uncommon or a rare? But I mean that just shows you No, I think Berserk wasn't a rare. Anyway, but the supply of it was very, very low, and that is why it was able to go up that price. Same thing with the one that was out of there's a Imperial Recruiter. I think that's what this is. This is like the red one, and it's had like a hundreds of dollars of price tag, just because of it was in Portal 3 Kingdom, but it was only. I don't think. Let's look at Imperial Recruiter real quick and see exactly where it sees play. I know it sees play in some Goblins lists and whatnot. So it's $320, and it does the same thing when it comes to play. Search a creature card with power. No greater to reveal that card put in your hand. So it doesn't go into play, it just goes right in your hand. It's just a nice little tutor, and it's played in, I believe this is Goblins that it's played in. Okay, and this one's played in Painted Servant. I swear I've seen it in some other ones, but look, it only saw off of MTG Goldfish, which still gets these statistics from all the Legacy tournaments that are being played on MTGO. It is a 4 in one deck. And that is it. In kind of it's a Blood Moon deck. It's a Magus of the Moon, Blood Moon. Let's grind. Okay, so it's a Painted Servant Grindstone combo deck. So it just tries to lock, and then it can win just by has that the threat of going infinite at any time, and also it just locks them out. Plays a lot of hate cards like Ensnaring Bridge. All right, so it's just a 1 of. It is a 4 of because it goes and gets it's another way to tutor up their Painter Servant. So yes, the Recruiter of the Guard can play a very similar role as the Imperial Recruiter. But again, the reason why this card is so expensive, right here. Portal 3 Kingdoms is the rarest of the rarest of the rare sets. This set was not printed at all. It's incredibly hard to find. I played during this time and didn't really see any or buy any because they were just, I think these were not even really at local game stores much. They were just kind of at random Targets and Walmarts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but again, these type of cards don't come into my store very often. The entire set has some very expensive cards that see absolutely no play. So if we come over to here, it's like, yeah, we've got Imperial Seal at $900. We have Capture of Jingzhou. You take an extra turn after this one. Does this even see much play besides like casual? And it's a $500 card. The Zodiac Dragon, there's a perfect example. It is an 8/8 for 9 mana, and then if it dies, you return it to your hand. Does it have any combos? Possibly. But that's a $250 card and sees no play. Okay, so a card that sees heavy play and a card that sees no play has a $70 difference. Yeah, that's just showing you the set is just super duper duper rare. Yes, this one is an uncommon, this one is a rare, but in this case, they're both rare. An uncommon out of a set that's very, very hard to find is basically a rare. So everything else, look at all these, every rare in the entire set is worth like over $10. You know, a lot of them over $50. And yeah, these, you can't tell me these see play anywhere. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool ones in here, but I don't know. That's just the reason why Imperial Recruiter is so expensive. So trying to price it based upon a card that has a huge price tag is not smart. These do not have, this is a rare too in Conspiracy now with 2 mythics. This card will go down and it will go down. Do you know what this actually reminds me of is the Legacy card, X and 2 white, each player votes, Council's Judgment. Let's look at Council's Judgment and see if it followed a trajectory that is similar to this. So this card was so hyped when it first came out. So super hyped. But it only actually started out 11. And it just continued to go down, down, down. Council's Judgment sees a lot more play. Miracles, Death and Taxes, Esperblade, Stoneblade, Eldrazi Taxes. Insane amount of play. Okay, it doesn't have an X in it. What's the X one I was thinking of? And this is the one I was thinking of, though, Council's Judgment, where each people votes and you exile. It is now down to a $5.50 and continues to go down. You have to think Imperial Recruiter is going to, or the Imperial's or Recruiter, whatever the Recruiter was, out of this Conspiracy set is going to follow the same path. You can't tell me this Council's Judgment is played less in Casual and Commander than this new Recruiter. Council's Judgment is almost an auto-include in every white Commander deck because it's that powerful, because it can't hit your stuff. So, yeah, Legacy 2, we've already established it sees heavy play in Legacy. So I'm thinking that the Recruiter of the Guard has to go down to that price tag. Has to. And it's just ludicrous to me that people are trying to compare this to Imperial Recruiter. Portal 3 Kingdoms versus Conspiracy 2. No, absolutely not. So that has to go down. Same thing with all these other mythics, the Sanctum Prelate. So as it enters the battlefield, choose a number. Non-creature spell converted mana cost equal to the chosen number can be cast. It's going to be another like Death and Taxes Hate Bear type card, only in Legacy with cards that are already above a $30 price tag. It has to go down. All these other ones, Duretti I think is the one that's most closely rated to Dak Faded. If it does start to see play, $16 could actually go up. Same thing with the Kaya and Duretti. If they actually do see Legacy play, I don't think Kaya will. I think Kaya is just a fun little casual card. But yeah, Burgeoning is actually a very, very, very good card in Commander, and it's already selling for $7.50 because I think the other one was worth like 11 or 12 before it started taking off. Oh, it was all the way up to 23. So this one's actually more, yeah, this one's more interesting here because it went way up. I guess it only went up recently though. Yeah, that's why I remember it 11 because last time I looked at it was probably around the gate crash. Or Gatewatch. And yeah, this will definitely, the Conspiracy 2, the $7.50, it's probably will follow the trajectory of Exploration. This was another one that Conspiracy just killed the price of this card because it wasn't a somewhat expensive card when it first came out. Yeah, like a $20 card, and went all the way down to 7. And then this one has been going up because this is another auto included. Most Commander green decks. It's just insanely powerful as a one drop in Commanders. It accelerates you so much. And then it's used in Legacy Elves as well, I believe. Legacy Lands. I thought this was in. Oh, not Elves. Yeah, Lands. So anyway, just a little bit of food for thought for Conspiracy. I think that there's just way too much value in here, and something has to give. Birds of Paradise has to give too. It's been printed a bazillion times. Doesn't have like a new artwork or anything like that. Ghostly Prison is an uncommon. This will go way down. This is another card that just suffered from having just awkward printings. It was only printed in Champions and then like Commander 1, not 2, 3, or 4. So Commander 1, this one wasn't printed that much. Plane Chase 2012, which mind you is getting another reprint in the box set. There's going to be like an anthologies for the Plane Chase. And then, yeah, nothing else. So Ghostly Prison is an uncommon. This will go down to the Swords to Plowshare range. $2 is what I assume it will go for Conspiracy. Too much value in it. I wouldn't get suckered into investing in these type of cards. I also think that Wizards finally got the memo that we need reprints that from the uncommon and the common. We had the Ghostly Prison, we had Sarin Visions, we had Inquisition of Kozilek. Inquisition of Kozilek I do not feel at all fits in this set, and I'm kind of mad about it because I don't want to draft the damn thing. And I have this kind of rule of thumb that if a card goes above like the $5 value mark, I draft it first pick over something else, because you're putting in $14 for a draft and have the potential value of winning, I don't know, whatever, $2 per person going into the draft. And that usually in these type of casual ones is split pretty aggressively through the players. This is just better than any sort of winning the tournament. So the value in like a $5 card is kind of my mark that I'll take over like a card I actually want in my deck. Depends on how I feel, if I really want to have a better experience or have value. But Inquisition, you can already see, has gone way down. And it needed a reprint, but flavor-wise and function-wise, this card is just god-awful in Conspiracy 2. This is almost last pickable in Conspiracy because it's so card disadvantage when you have multiple opponents. So A, you make an enemy right off the bat. B, this is going to miss like crazy because in multiplayer formats, you try to go big, not these like real attrition-based fast cards like you do in 1v1. That's why in Commander, you don't see Inquisitions in many Commander lists, if any. I don't think I've ever seen an Inquisition of Kozilek played in a Commander deck, just because it's not very powerful with multiple opponents, and making that enemy right off the bat is not something you want to do in a political game. So anyway, it's just really weird in this. I wouldn't mind it if it was an uncommon. The rarity is kind of weird on this one. I think that they just didn't want to, I don't know, just wanted to add more value, but I think it would have added more value at uncommon. But again, all the people that invested in Inquisition of Kozilek, it finally got the reprint. This is so unexpected. This just again shows the willingness of Wizards to just slap in a card into any old set. So I highly suggest watching those prices. Get out of cards when they're high, unless you need them for a deck. When they peak, that's when you get out of them. And the peaks a lot for these cards is now. I don't think that Conspiracy 2 will start to recover, at least for 2 years, because that's what we're starting to see with Exploration from Conspiracy 1. So sell out of Conspiracy, invest back in a year and a half in the cards that are staples in Legacy and Commander, and I think you're good to go. So lastly, again, I want to talk about, I know we're already into 28 minutes of this video, I want to talk about back to the Modern, and really just beat down that little window where people doubled, or where we doubled and tripled in player base, and just show you where it is. So cards out of New Phyrexian Innistrad went up in value, and I think it's the last of the lot. I was explaining this to a friend yesterday, that Innistrad, when the new players came in, they didn't have Innistrad cards, they didn't have New Phyrexia cards. Also, Wizards' printing mindset changed right after Innistrad. So where we are with Innistrad is about 2 years ago. We'll check this and see if I'm actually right here, if I can actually find Innistrad. M12, there it is right there, that's Innistrad. So about 2 years ago, we saw a big price increase in some of these Innistrad staples, like the Snapcaster Mage. We started seeing it going up, and we haven't, so that means that Ravnica is due for a price increase, and we haven't seen it happen. So right here at Cons, that's when the Snapcaster Mage went crazy. Or actually, even before that, during Born of the Gods is where a lot of these Innistrad staples went crazy. In fact, we can actually probably see the set value where it started to go up in value. Yeah, it was Fate Reforged. So that's been a rotation ago. So right now we should see Ravnica really start to go up in value, the Return to Ravnica, and it has stayed pretty much stale. So the reasons to why this is happening with Return to Ravnica, why it's stayed flat, is these sets were so heavily printed. What happened during New Phyrexia is New Phyrexia sold out during its standard season. Like, New Phyrexia boxes were like $150 to buy when it was still in print, or when it was quote unquote still in print and still heavily played in standard. And then we also saw that with Innistrad. Innistrad was actually sold out when it was still legal in standard. So I think that Wizards wanted to make sure that didn't happen again. So they overprinted Return to Ravnica on. There are so many in existence of Return to Ravnica boxes. You can still get Return to Ravnica boxes from distributors for under distributor prices. We're talking $75. I know that Cool Stuff has them right now for like $90. So if you can buy them from a vendor like Cool Stuff, who got them from distributors at a really low price, you know that something is kind of wrong with the amount of supply of Return to Ravnica. Return to Ravnica was full of staples, Steam Vents, all the way down to Blood Crypt of these Shocklands. We have Sphinx's Revelation, Supreme Verdict, Cyclonic Rift, Worldspine Worm. All of these are heavily played in Modern. We have Deathrite Shaman, which is a Legacy staple. Rest in Peace, which is a Modern staple. All of Trostani, which is a very favorite in Commander. We still even have like Smiters and Needles and Detention Spheres. All these cards see Modern play, yet no movement. We still even see a lot of these cards go down. We still have a lot of the Shocklands under $10. And that was the whole thing when people were like, get into Shocks, get into Shocks. And I'm like, no, do not get into Shocks. Just wait. Because the supply of these are way too high. And it's still starting to see, I'm thinking that Shocklands might start to go up in value finally, but we need like a good influx of Modern players for that to happen, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. I just think that we're going to have as many people leaving the game as joining the game. We've kind of stayed stagnant here at the 15 million mark of active players in Magic the Gathering, and the growth is nice. The growth is good, and the economy's recovered, so more people have expendable money. Let's hope that the economy continues to recover, and even Europe and the United States can be kind of stabilized with all the uncertainty. All that stuff does affect a hobby more than affects any other industry, I would think. So anyway, there's a lot of factors that I think have to happen for Return to Ravnica. But I know so many people just invested in boxes of Return to Ravnica. Same thing with Khans of Tarkir. All the people that just bought so many boxes of Khans of Tarkir, and the set continues to fall in value. So we're almost a full rotation away from Khans of Tarkir. And look at it now. It just continues. This is after all those people, all those experts told you to buy boxes of Khans of Tarkir. Buy. And now Polluted Delta is under 17. Last week we talked about, wow, are we going to hit under 15? I'm thinking we are. 25 cents again weekly. All these continue to go down. Clever Impersonator goes up. All the fetch lands continue to go down. So I just think that right now it's just a very weird time to be investing in Modern. I would say go after the casual cards. Go after the cards that not everyone and their mom is investing in. Fetch lands, Modern staples, even Legacy staples at this point, I think are higher risk than their potential reward. I think you're more likely to get burned than you are to have a really safe investment. So just keep with the good trends. Keep with I like to hit the hate cards that are in standard print that go down to kind of bulk prices and then see play because they shut down a Modern deck. So we're talking like Howled Moonlight. There's cards out of that are just recently rotated out of Modern staple decks. Like, again, there's another card to pick out of Origins, the Harbinger of Tides. It's a 4 of in both. I think it actually does see Legacy play in the Merfolk, but it's a 4 of a lot of times in Merfolk Merfolk is shown that is a staple tier 2 at least, tier 1, tier 1.5 Modern deck, and is is not going to go anywhere. Cards like Scavenging Ooze, there's another good one. Rest in Peace already had its little increase, but I think there's some more room to grow in that card. There's just better targets than these duh cards where all of the experts are into. You talk to any one of the quote-unquote experts, and this is where their money is. Puka Trade's a good place to see where people are heavily speccing on, because it's going to be cards like the Shocklands and the Fetchlands. One thing is they're easy to get out of because the demand is quite high, but the supply is also quite high. So it's easy to turn Puka points into money by investing in those type of cards. But I think there's better ways to do that. You can't go sometimes like in the stock market too, the Dow companies like Apple, Walmart, and all these other ones that are heavily traded are not the right ones to get into, because they are in the focal point. Everyone knows the value of them. I've made a killing off of the cards that no one saw coming, like the Hell Riders, when Hell Rider went from a 0 to a 4 of in the most played deck in Standard. Or again, the Stony Silence I don't know why people did not invest in that card when it shut down two of the decks that were really, really played in Modern. You have to think outside the box. You just can't think of the duh cards and invest in every card that everyone else is investing in. And I hope that's what you take away from it. I have cried and cried and cried. I've the warning calls for the Fetchlands, and I hope you heeded that clear back in the day. I got out of Polluted Deltas at $18 to vendors. I sold them to vendors at $18 a pop. And now they're back down to $16, and they're going to continue to go down. I think it's going to be a month, and then they're going to be down to $15. I don't know when is the time to start pulling the trigger on them, but in my opinion, if we still have another 6 months, you have to show me that Modern is going to actually see the coverage and the camera time. Wizards are going to have to start promoting Modern again before I think that these cards will go back in value. And lastly on that topic, I think there'll just be an amount of time where people get sick of Standard when people are like, hey, let's showcase Modern again, and Wizards will do it. It's just ludicrous to me that it's one of the most popular formats. That it keeps bouncing between the most popular and the second most popular format, and Wizards decides not to do a Pro Tour of it. I think that we'll see another Pro Tour or just some coverage of it in the future. We have a huge... the Las Vegas tournament next year is kind of... nothing's been announced about it, but it's the Magic Week is what I think they're going to call it, which has a 2-day of Modern. Maybe we'll see a lot of influx of people testing for that. There's some uncertainty about even if PTQs are going to be Modern in the future, if they're just going to keep going to a Standard-based PTQ circuit. So right now, Modern is just too uneasy for me. I'm personally getting out of it just because I hate the damn format right now. I think that there needs to be a more aggressive ban list. Become Immense and Simian Spirit Guide need to go before I really want to play the format. Again, if you enjoy that, more power to you. If you like that type of format, the Suicide Zoo, the Infect, which are the exact same deck if you ask me, the Ad Nauseam, the Dredge, all these decks that don't really interact with one another, that just try to go for these quick kills. If that's your cup of tea, if you like playing that, then go for it. I personally do not. Standard has been very good to me in these past few months. I think that it's a very healthy, very fun format. You can basically play any deck, except the 2-man queue is only Thermo Thing. It's like every 2-man queue is someone playing Thermo Thing. Ugh. Anyway. That's a story for another day. I ranted for over 35 minutes. Not going to edit this video again today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this video. Any suggestions you have for me, if you want to hear anything specific about the Market Monday, feel free to do so in the comment section below. I'm trying to take some questions for the 24,000 subscriber mark. I've been super busy with the end of summer, just trying to cross some things off on my summer bucket list. And so we're going to get back in the swing of things with the channel. We have the Rogue Master Brewer still going on. We're going to extend that just because I've been so bad at keeping up with the Rogue Master Brewer. I've received a ton of submissions. I think we're over 25 submissions for Rogue Master Brewer. Go check our website out for that. We're going to continue to try to promote that on the different social medias and try to get a huge community showing for the Rogue Master Brewer. We're also going to probably in the future go back to the market contests. I think in the past we've done some contests, kind of put your money where your mouth is and invest in specific cards. I usually like to do it around rotation cards, and the most savvy market person usually gets like a playmat or a prize from me. And I'm going to try to revive that as well. I want this to be a community thing, not just a Kevin Rambles thing. And Kevin can ramble as I'm looking at the time. We're almost up to 40 minutes. But I appreciate everyone. I think we have a great community here. Love all your faces. You've been really good to me in this past. Just the overwhelming amount of support and encouragement that I've received my fans is just amazing. There's been times that I've just been frustrated. with just the Magic the Gathering community in a whole, and then I just come to my YouTube channel and just see all the positivity, and you guys rock. Anyway, I'll just leave it there. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.